All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? My name's Cory, and this is Dr. Mark Musso with me here today. And we're going live on a couple different channels to bring you some value during a very difficult time. As you know, we're all at home. And I think when we're talking about our kids and the health of our kids, it's always going to be important to get as many resources and ideas and thoughts that you can. And today we're going to be talking about breathing, which is so very important. We're going to be talking about the body and brain health and how they work together. And we're also going to be talking about development. So what I'm going to do, I have Dr. Mark with me, and then we have Heather Wells, who is a cognitive specialist with Brain Balance coming in. So I'm going to welcome Heather to the stream. Hey, Heather, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
We're doing awesome. We just started, and I was telling everybody that, you know, during these difficult times, we've got a lot of things going on. So to bring two specialists on to have an awesome conversation to support our families that are probably just going crazy right now at home with their kids and families is a welcome addition to the internet, I believe. So listen, the cool thing is that the three of us have something in common. We're all brain balance parents. I have a child that went through the program for 9 months. And then Dr. Mark, I think you have a couple kids going through the program as well. Is that right?
Yes. One's finished, one's still going.
There you go. So let's get it started. I'll be here to kind of host you guys on this conversation. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is just kind of a 30-second kind of background to introduce some folks that might not be as familiar with you, Dr. Mark, especially coming onto our Brain Balance pages. Of course, you run Musso Family Dentistry. So can you give us a little bit of background about kind of what you do as it comes to not only dentistry, but the breathing, the sleeping, and also helping with the anxiety?
Sure. Thank you. So I've been a dentist for over 25 years. And in the last 10 years, I've devoted my office to treating people who have sleep disorder breathing. And it's really changed the way I look at my patients. It's a whole different dynamic shift in the way we understand and the way we treat. This isn't something that we were taught in dental school. So it's not anything that I was used to. It's changed the way I'll look at a patient, and I can look at their teeth, and it sounds crazy, but I can tell you just by looking at their teeth if there's an issue with their breathing or tongue function or other things going on. So it's really been an amazing journey, and there's a lot we're learning daily. And the thing about here with Heather and Brain Balance is this is a great interaction. It's a great collaboration. And that's what we're about now. We know that we can't fix everything as a dentist, but we know we can sometimes be the coach and get them to the right place. So it's an amazing collaboration thing that me and Heather, we sit up and talk on the phone all the time, or go have a pizza and talk about so many things, because it's like-minded and we're really enjoying it. And this is getting out. This is a new understanding, so people are understanding it.
Wonderful. And of course, when it comes to teeth and the brain and sleep and anxiety, all of that stuff steps into Heather's world. And of course, being a cognitive specialist, I'm sure that you have some synergy working together with Dr. Mark there, right?
Oh, absolutely. First time we met, I don't think either one of us took a breath. We were so excited because, wait a minute, you talk about that, so do I. Tell me about your vantage point about it, because we're both very huge. One of the things that we both talk about all the time is that we can't put a Band-Aid on symptoms. We have to get to the root and address things at the foundation. And Mark has a whole lot of smart friends too that I've had the privilege of getting to know too. And, you know, there were just light bulbs coming on, like, wait a second, I thought they had anxiety because they have huge adenoids or because they have this breathing obstruction. And yes, that is. But guess what? That might mean that the brain is not getting enough oxygen, and then that impacts the cognitive development. So the two just go hand in hand and complement each other just beautifully.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of anxiety going on right now. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We hear the news. We see Apple News on our phone every day. We might even get alerts from the New York Times. There's TV going on, of course. So, you know, Dr. Musso, if there's a couple of tips that we could kind of start with to maybe talk about breathing. I think right now a lot of us hold our breath so tight and our shoulders raise, and we just have a lot of stress going on. Do you have any techniques or thoughts behind breathing that can help lower that anxiety? And when during the day should we do that? Does it matter? Morning, afternoon, evening? What are your thoughts?
So absolutely, it's a day and a night thing, and the key is nasal breathing. We're designed to breathe through our nose. If you nasal breathe, the air gets filtered and humidified and sterilized, and by the time it gets to the lungs, it's healthy air, and it's a slower pace air breathing, and it's using diaphragm breathing. When you're a mouth breather, and most of our kids, if you watch the amount of kids that come into our offices, over 50% of them are mouth breathers, and they don't even realize they are really, and parents don't understand this is going on. And if they're doing that during the day, they're for sure doing it during the night. And if you can imagine breathing through your mouth every night and only getting 2/3 of your lung full and not getting enough oxygen into your brain, it's something that's so subtle that we don't realize that we're sleeping bad sometimes. So I treat adults for sleep apnea and disorders, and we see kids, and the kids go to sleep and they wake up next day and the parents think they slept fine, but a lot of times they're suffering and we don't know it. And so we see signs that we go by signs. And Heather will tell us, they wake up, they're not focused, they're agitated. I mean, how if you don't get a good night's sleep, you feel miserable. Kids can't really articulate that.
And let's talk about that, Heather. I want to talk about the effects of poor sleep and what could happen. And then I want to maybe talk about some solutions and come back to Dr. Musso, and maybe you can lead us through a breathing exercise. I know we all know how to breathe, or else we wouldn't be standing, but there is a way that is a bit more mindful, right? And that's what I want to give parents, is a tool for mindful, purposeful breathing, okay? So Heather, before we do that with Dr. Musso, can you talk about some of the things that might happen, some of the consequences of poor sleep for our children?
There are so many. I mean, focus, concentration, irritability. By the way, a lot of the symptoms are the same as the brain imbalance themselves, or the food sensitivities themselves. And so kind of teasing those apart. I think when Mark heard me talk at one of these events, at your event, we started talking about the spinal galant. So you have to figure out why they're having the challenge in the first place. There are studies showing that if you have the spinal galant, you may not get into those deep restorative stages of sleep. And then that is also tied in with bedwetting and the GI system and digestion. Right. And I have parents coming in and just saying, my child is tired all the time, and they can look like they're sleeping. Their spine gets stimulated, so they're just wiggly squiggly. It's that itch you can't scratch. And then the chair back at school will get them. Some of them don't even want to sit still for meals. And I know that Dr. Mark and I both talk about the fight or flight. And there are times when you need to be stimulated, and there are times when it's time to rest and digest. And that spinal galant can just result in them not ever getting to rest and digest, and they get very overwhelmed. And just what you said earlier, we both talk about this all the time, common versus normal. I talk about the frog in the frying pan. We get so used to coming from a good place, trying to be positive about it. This is our reality, and we're just going to deal with it. They don't realize things can be any other way. And a lot of times, parents and kids, you don't know how hard you're churning until you're not doing it anymore. And so,
well, that's the whole thing. So you're in this. I'm hearing a lot of feedback, Cory. Do you hear it?
Yeah, it's. I believe it's Heather's computer. I'm just going to mute it when we do that. It's okay. No worries, Heather. Okay. I got you.
So it's a sympathetic thing, the fight or flight, where our bodies are just in a lot of stress all night long, and so you're not able to get into those good rhythm sleep patterns that we should be doing. When you get in those good deep sleep patterns, you heal. Your bodies regenerate. You literally get toxins out of the brain. And children will sometimes grind their teeth or snore, and that's not normal. If any child snores or grinds their teeth, you have a problem, and you need to get some advice on what to do. So when that's the normal versus common thing that I want to really emphasize here, Heather, because a lot of times we're told things are normal, and we assume that means healthy, and it's not. It's common because we're seeing it so much because of all the other things going on with diet and poor development and tongue function and breathing problems. We get kids who are commonly having suffering problems, and it's not normal. It's not healthy. So I just wanted to piggyback on that, Heather, because that's so important.
Yeah, it is. And the frog in the frying pan I mentioned, it's a story my dad loved to tell as a preacher when I was a little girl, before his brain tumor. He used this quite a few times, where a frog can jump out of a skillet so easily, but if you turn up the heat hotly enough, the frog doesn't realize how hot it's getting, and he doesn't even jump out. You know, when I was legally blind, and I had tumors on both of my optic nerves for years of my life, and I never told my parents that I couldn't see.
Yeah, you couldn't articulate it.
Yeah, I don't know it can be any other way. My parents even said, "Why didn't Heather tell us she couldn't see?" You know, he said, "What is she supposed to do? Hey, Mom and Dad, you know that tree over there that I don't see? I don't see it."
All right.
And they're like, she's in excruciating pain. They said she's not once ever complained of pain. And the neuro-ophthalmologist said that's because it's all she's ever known. She doesn't know it. That's not dizzy. That's called Tuesday. You know, it's just my normal. And I didn't tell people that words were jumping around, but the same thing goes with, you know, the sleep disorder breathing that you're talking about. Yeah, if I'm just tired all the time, I'm just not a very energetic person, or we just have an emotionally labile child. Why? You have to ask why, and get to the root, and not just try to get by, but what do we have to do to help these kids and families thrive?
Right. I think it's a big deal, and you know, I wanted to kind of get back to the breathing exercise, if possible. Is that cool?
Sure.
Okay, so Dr. Mark, can you lead us through a breathing exercise? Is it just simply like in through the nose, out through the mouth? Do we hold it? What do you think?
So this is such a loaded question because there's so much going on that you got to be able to breathe through the nose first, and sometimes we got to see if there's constrictions. We got to know, we collaborate with our ENT buddy, Dr. West. There's a lot of things that play into it, but if you're familiar with Buteyko breathing, it's an amazing way to fill up your sinuses with nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is so important that we only get it through our nasal when we're breathing. We don't get it through the mouth. And that helps dilate blood vessels, get oxygen to the brain better. So if you're not literally breathing through your nose, you're missing so many opportunities to make your oxygen into your system better. But to answer your question, there are some. It's really interesting to see. Is go look up Buteyko breathing method, and he's a Russian guy that came up with it. But Patrick McKeown came up with a way of educating parents and everybody on how to do it. So, but once you breathe through your nose, and you'll sleep better, and that's the whole point of how we help kids. Is getting tongue positioned correctly, and that's a whole nother story with myofunctional therapy and how important that is to what we're doing. But once you get the lips closed and breathe through the nose, you will sleep better.
Incredible. Heather, anything to add to that?
Yes. One of the things I wanted that a lot of parents don't really, I would have no idea about this either if I wasn't a neurology nerd. But sometimes we talk a lot about mindfulness, and I'm a huge proponent of that, but we have to remember that some kids cannot do that in this moment in time because they are so out of touch with their emotions. They don't have good body awareness. Even when you're trying to tell them about tongue position or breathe in through your nose, I don't feel my nose. So what does that mean? It really, there's a disconnect between the words you're telling me and the parts of my body and me feeling it the way I'm supposed to. If I can't read your body language, it also means that I don't actually expand your belly. We've had a lot of kids who have all kinds of challenges. We do not claim to make articulation better, for example, or something like that. But a lot of kids have some challenges there as they're going through the program. It's not what brings them to see us. But guess what? If I'm trying to say a sound and you're like, tense up your tongue, I don't know what that means. What is tense versus relaxed? What is where your tongue goes in your mouth? That's a spatial concept. Where I am in space, how am I going to do that? But that ties right in with breathing. And something so easily is like, put your hand on your belly, feel your diaphragm expanding. That just is not connecting. It's just kind of like, it's like I felt one time when you worked on my teeth, Dr. Musso, and I couldn't feel my face afterwards. But imagine that kind of on a lesser level in your whole body. And by the way, it didn't hurt at all. The best.
Thank you. So that's the thing about a lot of times everybody doesn't realize your tongue should be normal position should be in the roof of your mouth at all times. And when you're mouth breathing, it's not able to do that. And some people just keep it low and relaxed, call it lazy tongue, but your tongue should literally be up in the roof of your mouth and should swallow backwards. And if it doesn't do that, it doesn't form the roof of your mouth, the upper jawbone. And if you don't widen that jawbone, then the lower jaw doesn't come forward. If that doesn't come forward, then your airway back here is closed off. So the whole breathing and proper breathing is so important with tongue function. And it's a simple way to, a lot of times parents don't hear your own child properly because they've been growing up with it. It's their normal, that normal sound again. You don't know that your child might be sinus sounding. A simple way to do is just breathe through your mouth. And if you feel that airflow, how normal that is, and then close your mouth and breathe through your nose, it should be similar to that. And a lot of people can't breathe through their nose. And then you got to go down, okay, let's find out what's going on. Let's go back to, the behavioral stuff. Let's go back to, in my world, we look at physically like the turbinates in the nose. Are they swollen? Is the deviated septum from improper growth and development? Is there a deviated septum that's causing a problem? Is there a chronic infection in the back of there where you can't breathe through your nose? So like Heather was saying, the kids can't really say, I'm not breathing through my nose very well. It's their normal right at that point, but it should be way up here. So it's an investigate. We have to be like little, investigators and find out exactly what's going on. So not every child's the same. And that's why I love going to different, if I can't get this, I'm going to send it to Heather. I'm going to send it to Dr. West, an allergist, a nutritionist, myofunctional therapist. And Heather and I were talking about, this is something that we're trying to put together all in one, where we can, a child can come to all of these entities instead of the parent taking the child to all the different entities. So there's a lot we can make this thing better, but we're trying.
Yeah, good stuff. I love it. And now, as we're talking about potential breathing, I want to get you back. We got a little off track. I want to do that breathing exercise. I want parents to walk away with something they can do. All right. So how long we're going to breathe through the nose if we can, of course, right? We're going to take it in, and do we hold it and then we come back down? Like, what do you think we should do? Is it in through the nose, out through the mouth, and how many times should we do it?
So again, Patrick McKnone has this on the YouTube, and essentially you close your mouth, you breathe in and out through your nose, and then you let it all out, and then you hold it till you get that anxiety kind of, I need a breath. And then instead of going, you just slowly breathe back through your nose. And you do that several times, and you pinch here, and it sounds silly, but you shake around to try to get everything moving in there. And what that's doing is building up that nitric oxide I was talking about. So you do that several different times, and if you're congested and you do this, and after a few times, you'll feel like you can breathe better through your nose. So the kids learn this. This is something that we need to teach adults and children, especially before you go to bed, right? We have we tell you to blow your nose in the shower, get ready for bed. We have some natural stuff. Clear is really a good, XLEAR is the name of a spray we do to clear out your nose. Those exercises of slow breathing in, not the real fast yoga type breath, but the slow, easy. And you're using your diaphragm. It's slowing down, getting you into that parasympathetic mode instead of that fight or flight, gas pedal on, and it prepares you for nighttime, but it opens the airway. It opens your nose. And then we talk about tricks on how to keep your lips closed and all these other things. So there's a lot into it.
Love it. Heather, you want to add anything there? I know you're kind of chomping at the bit.
Oh no, I was just sitting here like, yes. I get excited every time I hear you talk. It's just exciting because you just go so deep on it, and I really love it. No, just one thing that's a little aside, but just seems kind of apropos right now is once you get your kids knowing how to do the good breathing, one good thing, if you are wanting to take some slow breaths, if they're kind of in a fight or flight mode, is to teach them some positive affirmations as they're breathing in and out. And that can kind of, that gets the body and the brain kind of going together and gets that connection going deeper. So just because I am scared doesn't mean I'm in danger. If they're afraid about what's going on right now, or I am safe, or I can, even when this is not going on, teaching your kids positive affirmations. And I sometimes tell them to do those as they're breathing in and out. It makes it more rhythmic, and it gives them something to focus on, since if they are a little out of touch with their body, they have a thought to connect with it, and it makes it a little more tangible for them. So
stressful mode of, it's the sympathetic mode, right? The get fight or flight. Well, what happens in that time is your heart rate goes high, your sweating palms, your digestion slows down, right? So these kids with stomach issues because their stomachs are been tight and they're in this fight or flight day and night. So getting them into a really relaxed parasympathetic situation, they can sleep better, they can feel better, and it's just all combined, all connected. So we need all these different ways to make that happen for these kids.
And with the kids we work with, a lot of our kids are in a fight or flight mode, even if there is nothing tangible going on that why they're upset, even if they've not been through trauma, even if COVID is not going on. Our sensory motor system sends messages through our spinal cord, and our guard dog, the amygdala, says, am I safe? If I am misperceiving sensory input, my brain's going to trick me and say, no, you're not safe. The sound is too loud. Everything stinks and it's making me gag. My visual perception, I feel like I live in a 3D movie or a horror flick. That is going to put me into fight or flight mode, just as if I'd been through trauma. So it's important to keep that in mind. And then the information doesn't even make it sometimes to the hippocampus for language storage and memory and learning, and to your executive functions where you have your emotional regulation. So that's one of our many executive functions, one of our early ones, where we don't go from 0 to 60, but I don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to sustain my focus anyway. It's all very, very connected. So you start fixing the breathing and getting that, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic going when they're supposed to. It actually improves your self-regulation and helps bring that anxiety down more once those airway, those labored breathing issues are taken care of.
You remember? So I like this analogy. You remember when we were young and we swimming and we had the snorkel going on, and you're breathing through your mouth, right? Which is not a good feeling. You're using your upper chest to get air, and you're underwater. The anxiety is already kind of starting there. That's a good way to kind of look at it. And then when your crazy friends puts his hand over the snorkel and stops the airflow, that's like an apnea event, and you bust out of the water, and it causes that increase in heart rate and all this, and that's what's happening to children who have sleep apnea, who have real true sleep apnea and sleep disorders. Even without apnea, there is what we call upper airway resistance syndrome, which is where you're kind of getting that little bit of air, not enough, and your body stays in this fight or flight mode for a lot of the night, and it's fragmented sleep. It doesn't allow you to get into that deep sleep like we were talking earlier. So all these things really, traumatize the brain, and if you're doing that every night, it carries over.
It does. Wow. Well, we're talking about a couple different things. We talked a lot about sleep. We talked a little bit about breathing, but Heather, I want you to kind of take the lead as we talk about brain health and development. And, kids are sitting at home right now. Are there some things that they could do to keep their brain stimulated until they have their spring break, end, I guess, their technical spring break, and they get into kind of the new normal of taking classes at home? And, a lot of our kids, our brain balance kids, are going to be looking at computer screens, which isn't ideal. So when they're not looking at the computer screen, what are some things that they could do? What are some quick tips for parents that we could give to help keep those brains stimulated?
Sensory motor input is everything at any age. It is so important. We talked about the connection between me feeling my body and the command central of my motor system communicates directly with my prefrontal cortex, where I have self-regulation, attention, focus, learning, time management, organization, all of those things. So I've talked to people about going on a listening walk, in identifying where sounds are coming from and what those sounds are, or playing I Spy, where you're getting visual input. There are so many ways to grow social, emotional skills while you're doing literacy. I highly recommend freespirit.com because they have books for all the way from infants through teenage years on a variety of topics, character growth and development. And I have a wealth of resources too. If anyone is out there, what do I do during this time? We're going stir crazy. And this is such I'm a pretty strong believer that anytime we're having trying times, there's also a blessing out there in it. We got to look for it. One of the blessings of having a break from school is that we always talk about how we're chasing moving targets on whether it's sensory, motor, physical, academic development. Right now, school is standing still. And guess what? This is an opportunity for you to help your child kind of fill in gaps and get more ready for when school returns. And social emotional development is every bit as much a part of school readiness as academics. But read with your kids, have them read to you, not just you read to them, because that's the difference between language comprehension and auditory processing versus I'm having to use my visual perception and understand the words in text, play vocabulary games, hands-on, cooking. Have them be your helper. Planting seeds, you're using fine motor skills, and that works on memory, attention, regulation. It's very foundational for development. Journaling is one of my favorite things. It's so important for anyone. A gratitude journal, it helps give them perspective. A lot of these kids are very black and white, or they have a gas pedal like Dr. Musso mentioned, and they're all gas and no brake. Let me pause and think about this before I speak or act. Or one thing happens, it's the worst day ever. But when they journal about it, it helps them think through it. And you can do some of those affirmations like, or things that help them get in touch with who they are. My favorite activity is this. My least favorite is this, because you want to know who they are so you can start intrinsically motivating them to work on these things. Knead dough, dig in the dirt. That's tactile input. Vacuum, proprioception input. I love musical chairs. And then I want to see what Mark has to say. I love musical chairs for several reasons. It's auditory processing, and that is not only where I can sound out syllables and words and understand commas and periods and exclamation points, but it's also time management, organization. When the music stops, we stop at a chair, and you look at what emotions in the chair that you stopped at, and you act it out, play charades, talk about how you're feeling, and everybody in the family talks about what makes them feel that way. The reason that's important, we never want to shame kids' emotions. We want to teach them how to handle them. But if I know that my dad also has these feelings and it's okay, all of a sudden I don't feel shamed and I'm much more likely to communicate about it. And then but you've got to translate these all over the place. But it's fun. You're moving, equilibrium. I know when I'm still and I know when I'm moving. But just look for ways to get them moving, get your hands dirty, auditory stimulation, play all kinds of memory. Memory is one of my favorite games because working memory puts me into cognitive overload. If I cannot hold information in my brain and use it until I don't need it anymore, I am going to have meltdowns. And then I'm also using visual discrimination to see if the things match. And then that helps me read better. All kinds of things. Just think about sensory motor activities and literacy and journaling, I would say, are some of the top things. What do you think?
I like the idea of getting my kids to clean the room for vacuuming skills and everything like that.
Love it. I love it.
For ourselves, right?
Yeah,
that's
sure.
right. That's right. Cool. All right. Well, good stuff. Guys, I want to keep our Facebook Live here around 30 minutes, and I think we're coming up to the end of it, but I think there's been some great value here. We've talked about, a lot of good things that parents can use, and I'd love to do it again in the future. So all I can say is, guys, stay tuned. Stay tuned to our Facebook pages where you're watching this right now. We did simulcast this on a couple different Facebook pages. And I want to give Dr. Musso a chance to talk about his practice and where he's located and kind of how he's adapting to the current times. And then we'll give Heather that same opportunity to kind of talk about our brain balance centers and what's going on right now. And if they do need help, anyone watching that does need help, we'd love to find a way to contact you guys. So we can leave that, of course, in the comments. But Dr. Musso, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about your practice.
So my big push, and Heather knows, we're about bringing awareness. That's why we're doing things like this. This is, a unique opportunity for us to talk not only about children's sleep disorders, but the dads here. There's a lot of dads who are snoring, and they're having problems. So without in just talking in one area, I cover it all from 2 to 92. We talk about helping children at 2 years old when people are going to wait till they're 7 or 8. It needs to be done soon. It needs to be checked. We offer consultations, free consultations, just to take a look and see. I encourage you, if you hear your husband stop breathing where he goes, like that's usually a apnea event, and we think snoring's funny and all this. It's not. This is prelude to some serious issues. I have patients that stop breathing 106 times an hour, and they didn't even know it till we got a sleep study. And sleep studies are easy. We can do them on kids or adults, and we'll send them home with you. It's something that can be done. You can do a take-home sleep study instead of having to go to a place. There's a lot of ways to get around some of the obstacles that people are afraid of, and CPAPs are great. We sometimes I'm a coach and I refer to a CPAP, but there's a lot of times it's not great. And it can cause in a child, it may not allow growth and development like it should. So we have ways to work with children who have to be on CPAPs. For adults, it may be the only option for them. They may be so severe that it's a life or death thing. And so it's so important, like I said, to be breathing properly. And we start with children. We want to start early so we can get them. Heather, we talked about epigenetics, and there's your genetic potential of your growth and development of this area right here is supposed to at 4 years old you should be 75% grown. If it's not, you got this tiny little cage where you can't get the tongue is pushed back into the airway. It's a domino effect of problems. So we're about awareness, like, hey, if a child is grinding or snoring, let's look at airway. Let's look at all the things that could be going on. So it's so important for us to know. And they say, stay in your own lane. We can't. We gotta teach each other people's stuff. That's why I tell people about Heather, and that's why I tell people about an ENT or a myofunctional therapist. We need a group to do this. And so my office is in Garland. It's I've been here for over 25 years, and I love dentistry. I love taking out teeth. I love doing implants. I love all that kind of fun stuff. But my true passion is finding some constriction or obstructions and finding what I can do to get a child to a healthy position. So if we can help out in any way or get you to the right place, I'm excited to do that.
Awesome. And Heather, can you tell us a little bit about Brain Balance's services? I know that you run the Katy, Southlake, and Mansfield, Texas locations. How can we reach out to you?
I just have to say real quick, I'm sorry. When you go to Dr. Musso's office, I just have to say this. I have never been to an office where it is more welcoming. Every single person wants to be there. They are on this planet to do what they're doing. And I just had to say that because that matters. And
it does.
So, I cannot imagine. I'm not a person. I don't struggle with anxiety and don't have dental anxiety. But if I did, I was thinking, man, I feel like I'm in heaven here.
Thank you.
And you just really put people at ease. And the whole staff is so sweet, phenomenal, and passionate. I just had to say that. I'm sorry.
I love it.
I really
all the time. Thank you. They're fantastic. They're what makes this thing work. I'm telling you, they're awesome. Thank you.
And you have a business manager that takes over parts of your brain to take care of the stuff so you can help people breathe. So Brain Balance, and by the way, we have the Woodlands also opening soon. I don't think that's really pertinent right now, but I thought I'll mention that. You can reach out to me at hwells@brainbalance.com. And even if you're listening from somewhere else in the country, we have centers all over the place. And I'm really happy. We want to support you in this meantime. I have created resources. I do seminars and educational things all the time. So I have decades of resources that both I've put together and that I've kind of just accumulated over time. And you can let me know how old your child is, what it is you need help with, what kind of time you're trying to fill in and work on. And I'm really happy to kind of help get you going in that direction. Even when we're close, we are going to be doing things like this where we're giving you information. And then, if you follow our pages, bring any of those, the Facebook pages, and as well as Musso Family Dentistry, you can see when we're doing more things like this. And then if you can't catch them live, check them out later and send us messages. We want to hear from you. If you want to hear us talk about certain topics, let us know. And we're happy to accommodate that as well.
We love it. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and just want to give a shout out to Heather and Dr. Musso for joining us. Of course, taking the time, get back to helping as many kids as possible. And We'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cory. Thank you, Heather.
Thank y'all. Thank you.